What's your response to people when folks are like, Reiki, that's like hooey? What do you say?
That I definitely think is the challenge. A challenge with some of these practices that have been practiced for hundreds, if not thousands of years in other parts of the world. They're new, to this part of the world. So I definitely don't take it personal. I understand that anything that is unknown is scary for people. So that's something that I really try to do with my social media and just my message and how I teach is I really try to make things practical. I try to break things down in a way that isn't so esoteric and is more relatable.
It's the Ryan Leckey Show. Welcome to the Ryan Leckey Show. Hey, what is going on? I'm back with another episode of the Ryan Leckey Show, and today we are tackling a topic that a lot of people buzz about, right? But do you really know self-care inside and out? And with us on the podcast couch today, because there's so much to this. Everybody thinks self-care, I'm going to get a facial once a month and treat myself. But then sometimes your headspace is still a mess. We're going to pull back the curtain on that and a really cool event hitting northeastern Pennsylvania in August called the Wild Women NEPA Festival. But on the couch, Kailin Bouse, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I am super stoked to have you on the couch because I want to kind of get inside your head and how you sort of dove into this element that is so important to people. But people just haven't really practiced self-care, but it's more than meditation, yoga, et cetera. We're going to talk about that. Yeah. And you are somebody who I follow on social media who is so real, so authentic, and really inspiring when I see it. And I'm like, I just love that she just shoots these videos, and it's the good, the bad, the ugly. It's the days where you're like, you know what, I'm having a bad hair day, but I got something to tell you, right? I love that because in the day and age where people put out perfection all the time, and I'm guilty of it. I've tuned up photos. You are so real. And I think when people really look at social media content, and they just see perfection, you kind of pull back the curtain and say it's okay to be you.
Yeah.
And I love that. But I want to dive into, first of all, because we are going to dive into the Wild Women NEPA Festival, which is happening what date?
August 27th.
All right. In
Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania at Lazy Brook Park.
We're going to unpack all the details behind it because it's something amazing for women in this part of Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
But I want to get into self-care, right? So what does that mean to you? And how did you eventually get into everything involving yoga, meditation, and really saying, you know what, I need to look out for myself so I can be better for others?
Yeah, absolutely. So, self-care and really being an advocate for your own well-being has been something that's so important to me and in my own life and my own journey that I kind of came to through really needing to find some healing and connecting with myself. Self-care is really something that expands more than just on the surface of who we are. It really has to do with the multifaceted individual that each of us truly is inside. So it has to do with your mental health. It has to do with your emotional health, your physical health and your spiritual health. Are you living in alignment with your purpose? Are you, doing the things that really light you up inside? And are you able to express yourself in the most authentic way possible? Or are you trying to kind of fit into a box, that you may feel like you need to fit into? So personally for me, just growing up, I never really felt like I kind of fit in. I feel like for young women, it's really hard. We see all these magazines and TV commercials and movies and all these products that we're supposed to use to kind of look or appear a certain way, So I grew up really not feeling connected to who I was because I always felt like I was trying or needed to be, someone else. And then, growing up and, getting a job, to make money, I worked in the administrative field, starting off, young and worked my way up. And I had a great job and I was making decent money, but I didn't feel like that spark inside. I didn't feel like I was aligned with what I was really meant to do. And I was just overworked to the point where my health started to decline. So, I went the traditional route of trying to figure out, why am I 22 years old and feel like, my body is failing me, and it came down to realizing that I had so much stress that I didn't have the tools to manage, So I started exploring different modalities of healing. And that's when I started practicing yoga and meditation and really started to find some relief for the things that I was experiencing. And I ended up pretty much quitting my job.
This is at 22.
It was 22 is kind of when I started this. So
but I think it's amazing. You kind of had this grand awakening of sorts at 22 where you felt a hamster on the wheel. You were burned out in like sort of quote unquote corporate America. You did what everybody does, right? You go to high school, you get some more education, you get a job, and you're just like, oh my gosh, is this my life? But you did something about it faster than a lot of people would.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so 2018, I believe it was. I was living in New Jersey at the time. I'm from Northeast PA, born and raised, but I moved out to the city to try to, find a career and stuff. I quit my job out there. I ended up moving back home and came across a yoga program, a residential program at the Himalayan Institute, which is in the Pocono Mountains.
Yeah, right outside of Honesdale, Pennsylvania. Yeah,
which I think we actually met there once when you had came to do some sort of
television
thing. So it's funny. We're all connected through these little strings.
We have to unpack that for a second because how it's not just I met you on IG, right, on Instagram, right? But I see your content consistently and I'm like, man, I just love how she just like lives wholeheartedly and like this shows up, as Kailin, and it's like, no matter what the day is, I love that. But I think backing up a little bit, that's what's incredible, and how it's like 6 degrees of separation with everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because technically we met, it could have been like 11 or 12 years ago. You were living at the Himalayan Institute, and I used to do a lot of live shots with them, and they did like a lot of community events, etc. Our paths crossed there, but then they actually, this is how we kind of got to know each other. Our paths crossed as well when I went to start my own company about a year ago in June. And we had a mutual friend who connected us, shout out to Tatiana, who said, hey, you're launching this company. And I was asking her some questions because she does a lot of social media marketing. And I was like, do you know of anybody who does X, Y, and Z? She's like, there's this girl, Kailin, who kind of maybe has some time now, who's in yoga training. She's going back to be like a yoga teacher and everything else, but she might be able to help you out, right? And I literally will always be grateful to this. I always tell this story, and I sincerely mean it. When I started my company, I felt like the jet just took off, but you came into my life at the right time. It's weird how the universe works. And you said, we're going to land this plane. We're going to like fix some stuff up and then get you back in the air. Because essentially when we started, it was like I was building the plane as I was flying it. And you kind of really helped me get grounded in so many different ways. And literally launched to where we are today. And I'm forever grateful for that. And it's funny, like you took some time to go back to yoga school and I'm like, you're never leaving us. And you still collaborate with us on projects and you're such a great sounding board. So I think that's interesting. We met like eons ago when you were at the Himalayan Institute and then our paths crossed again. And I'll never forget, like when I started my company in June, here we are at my dining room table, many, many days, right? Trying to figure stuff out, and you helped us for that. So for that, I'm forever grateful.
Well, thank you for having me. I was, honored to be part of that. And it's amazing. I truly believe that no matter where you are on your path, like it's where you're supposed to be because, in the corporate job, I got a marketing background. I got a professional background, which has really helped me with my own business and have the opportunity to help, you and other people when it comes to marketing or, business administration or kind of organizing things in the background. So even though I, spent that time and realized that wasn't the life for me, that I still truly benefited, and it was part of my path.
To set you up for what you're doing now.
Set me up, and
with the Wild Women NEPA Festival and all this other cool stuff you're doing.
Yeah, so I got into yoga, teaching yoga.
Yeah.
I found so much passion in that. The Himalayan Institute offers an amazing opportunity. You actually have a residential program. I lived there for 2.5 years where I studied and became certified as a yoga and meditation instructor with some amazing world-renowned teachers and a really traditional a traditional training in yoga, which really goes beyond just the physical aspects of it. It goes into the energetic, mental, emotional aspects of it, and really focuses on the nervous system and how to heal our nervous system from chronic stress, which is honestly one of the main root causes of so many of the health issues that so many of us are dealing with on the day-to-day basis, is because our nervous systems are just fried out from overstimulation, overwork, not putting that time aside to have that moments of self-care, and maybe not even knowing how to do that or what it is that we need. So through teaching yoga and just learning about yoga, I really came to the understanding that, there's these layers of being that we have to work on for ourselves. So I started, getting into all different aspects of healing, and I came across Reiki Healing, which is a form of energy healing that helps working with the chakras and kind of just clearing out and helping the energy flow through our bodies in a more optimal way, because we are energetic beings. If you go into, the scientific understanding of, vibration and, the breath, having having these things flow through us in an optimal way is really how we're going to feel that vibrancy that we need. And I've always been a musician and a singer, so getting into sound therapy came really naturally to me as well. And I've been able to use everything I've learned through my own, journey of healing and kind of connecting and finding myself through all these different modalities. And now I'm just trying to share that with other people and to try to just share my story and who I am in the most genuine and authentic way as I can. Even, the moments where I'm not feeling so hot, it's all part of it. And it's all beautiful, and we're all on these journeys, of really reconnecting with ourselves and finding our purpose and finding our path. And, it's not a linear journey, it's not all uphill. It's sometimes you dip back down in the valley or things take a turn, but it's about knowing how to deal with the stress and the obstacles that come into your life, and to really see that life is happening for you instead of to you. And even when there are challenges or dark moments or traumas that come in, there's a light and a lesson in everything that happens to us. So it's kind of just trying to find what that light and lesson is and try to integrate the things that you're learning and just allow that to help you be the best version of yourself.
Let's go back to when you did sort of a residential program with the Himalayan Institute. And during that time, and I have to say, I have a huge respect, and I have always I didn't live there like you did, but I always had fond memories working with the people there, and I always felt so chill. I would go in there, right, and 8 cups of coffee, and everyone's like yogis, and they're very chill, and I'm running circles around the place, and I'm like, I love cupcakes, and they're like, calm down. Let's talk about how long were you there, and why did you decide to leave, right? Because this is a place you could live at for many, many years, right? Walk me through those decisions and stuff, because I think coming back to what you said about sometimes things happen to you in life and there's a reason for it. You've been really public. You met somebody at the Himalayan Institute. I
didn't meet him there,
okay.
But he did the yoga training with me there. So I was living at the Institute.
This would be your boyfriend, Dan, at the time.
Yeah, my partner, Dan, at the time. He lived just an hour away from the Institute. We went to the same high school together, and he was very supportive of me living at the Institute and doing my yoga training. And when I actually took the month-long course to get the certification, he actually joined me, and he went through the process of getting his certification as well. So shortly after that, it was actually during that course, that 23-day long, the actual certification course, in 2020, COVID hit. And it kind of shook everything up, especially at the Institute, because this is a community of people. There's over 100 people that live here, and it's a retreat center. So there's people coming from all over the world, to come and take retreats and learn and study. So that, of course, kind of got completely shut down, when COVID hit. And, my partner Dan had to go back home. I was living at the Institute at the time. There was a month that we were apart because we weren't really able to go in and out because of the pandemic. We were trying to keep everyone safe. And unfortunately, during that time apart, Dan started to fall really ill, and we weren't really sure what was going on. And in July of 2020, I was able to, travel back to visit him, and I knew something was very wrong. So I took him to the hospital, and it turned out that he had stage 4 adrenal cancer, which is a very, very rare cancer. It's like 1 in 2 million people that have the exact kind that he had. And it's unfortunately one of those cancers that doesn't really show any effects until it's already so mass spread in your body. So that really threw us for a loop. He immediately had to start undergoing treatment, and because this cancer is so rare, they don't even have a set treatment plan for it. They kind of just had to throw everything at it, and the success rates, especially at such a progressed state of cancer, were not high. But despite how difficult and traumatic everything was, Dan and I were both very spiritual people, and a lot of the things that I've been talking about in these perspectives of understanding how, there's lessons and wisdom within everything, a lot of that is what I learned from Dan. And all of the yoga training that we had just had literally a few months before really helped us to stay grounded in the process of his illness, and to, really stay focused in the present and not let fear kind of come in. And I had 2 solid months with him in the hospital before he ultimately passed from the cancer. And it was, the biggest loss that I think I'll ever experience, and the hardest thing I think I'll ever experience. But at the same time, somehow one of the most beautiful things that I've ever experienced. And there is a love, that expands, past even, this world, that I feel like I carry with me, and a wisdom and just a deep connection and understanding that, nothing in this world stays forever. And that is what makes things so much more special. I remember one thing that really sticks with me when Dan was sick, and we were outside, and he was just looking around, and he was like, man, I know that I'm sick. I know what's happening. I know I'm dying, but like, the sky has never looked as pretty as it looks right now. And the wisdom within that just truly still resonates with me, because it's like when we know, we're closing on an end, or that things aren't, going to be here forever, or things are bad, but when you look at the sky and you're able to see the blessings that are still there, it's just extremely profound. So going through that experience definitely expanded me spiritually, emotionally, and I'm able to help people now that are going through cancer treatments, to find some peace, and solace with some of the treatments and sessions that I hold. And I feel like it's a way to give back to people. So I ended up leaving the Institute shortly after, Dan passed. And at the same time, like just a week after Dan passed away, my stepfather passed away. Wow. Very randomly from a heart attack. So that was completely unexpected. So that threw my whole family for a loop again. So I've really had a lot of experiences that, I had to work through. And the only way to continue on was to really find that strength and purpose and beauty, and to understand the cyclical nature of life. And that's kind of what brings me to the work that I do now.
For people who see this, who have a loved one, or if they're going through cancer treatment or some other unforeseen illness, what have you learned about the self-care aspect and meditation and yoga and Reiki to help people with that? Because I think you have, right, traditional medicine, and we're thinking of treating people, right, with chemo, and people still go through that. But how do you complement that with the other elements for the mind, right? Because I really feel like people didn't really, I want to say, not greenlight self-care, but it wasn't so much talked about, or mental health wasn't as important until the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Which was this like huge grand awakening for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But Tell me, like, what is your message or those discussions you have with some of these people? Because you've seen the trauma. I mean, God, losing two people who you love within just weeks of each other.
Yeah, that definitely.
And you had your spirituality and all this sort of training to lean on. I mean, how do you navigate people through this?
Absolutely. So, those traditional treatments, are necessary if that's what people, opt into. But there is so much toll that it takes on people mentally and emotionally, when you're going through not only a physically, taxing treatment, but also all of the difficult, aspects of facing, your own mortality and stress and fear. And, mindfulness and staying present is one thing that really helped Dan and I. We didn't think about what was going to happen tomorrow. We didn't think about, should we have done all these other things? What if we would have, blah, blah, blah. Like, we focused on like, okay, we're here right now. And what is it that I can do in this moment to stay calm, to stay grounded, So making sure that stress levels, are tried, trying to keep them balanced, doing the things, the simple pleasures that you find enjoyment out of, going outside in nature. Nature is a huge, huge healer. And just, connecting with the people that you love in a way where you really can celebrate, the connection and the life that you have. And to have an understanding that, we are these infinite beings, and, people have different beliefs and different religions or different aspects of spirituality. But from my personal experience, I really do trust and believe that, there is more to life than what we may think. And I do feel that we go on forever and we live on forever in the legacies and the hearts of other people. So looking at things, that, there isn't anything with a solid ending, things only are opening up a new door to a new beginning. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, that's physics. So focusing less on, what may happen because it's outside of our control, focusing more on what we have control on is how present can I be right now in this moment? How much joy can I find around me? How much beauty can I find around me? How can I connect and share space with the people that I love? And then just doing whatever treatment or whatever session or whatever self-care that helps you feel grounded and that helps regulate your nervous system and helps you feel more present, so that your stress response isn't really controlling your mind, throughout that difficult time.
Let's come back to what you said about self-care. What falls under that umbrella? Because I think there's a misconception. People think self-care, it's, okay, got to take myself to the spa and blow $1,000 today. There's my self-care. Now, granted, that's a good time.
Yeah.
What does self-care look like to you?
Self-care to me first starts with self-awareness. So we have to really know ourselves and what we're feeling, why we're feeling it, and what we actually need to, help ourselves in order to really be able to, care for ourselves. So having a connection with ourselves through reflection, through meditation, mindfulness, just really so that we can actually first understand what we need. Because sometimes I think I need a whole bag of chips. But sometimes that's not what I need, and sometimes the things that we like, or that feel good aren't necessarily the things that we need either. So having that awareness of, okay, like my nervous system is really strung out, I drink a lot of coffee because it helps me keep going, but what I actually need maybe is to slow down. So, and it doesn't have to cost $1 million, to go out to the spa or to do all these things. It can be as simple as going out for a walk, as simple as, connecting with your breath, or, doing an activity that you really love, looking at your nutrition. What are you putting into your body? Digestion, of course, is food, but it's also anything that brings in every experience, all the media that you intake, and really just look at the things that you're doing in your life and say, is this uplifting me? Is this nourishing me? Or is it possibly, draining me? Or is it possibly throwing me more out of balance? So self-care is really just about finding balance within your, in your life to find just the most optimal health for you and how you can feel your best and how you can show up, as your full self in your life.
You touched on media, so I want to come back to this. For you, like with a lot of the workshops you do and you put on in their yoga, meditation workshops, and of course the Wild Women NEPA Festival, which we're going to dive into in a moment. Tell me about the boundaries you set around social media specifically, because I'm guilty of it. We all are. We go down the rabbit hole, and sometimes you don't get out for like an hour and a half later, and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have been in bed.
Yeah.
How do we be better at that?
It's all about that mindfulness and self-awareness. We go on autopilot a lot because our nervous system, most of us are in that fight or flight response, whether we realize it or not. And we're not really present with exactly what's going on. So like we're self-soothing by, scrolling through social media or, any other activities that kind of boost the dopamine in our brain to kind of put a Band-Aid on it and make us feel like we're like feeling better, when in the long run we may actually be like throwing ourselves more off balance. So really just having that awareness in the moment of what am I doing, how long should I be doing this, and even just setting up, some boundaries for yourself of, I'm not going to go on the phone after, 7 p.m. at night. I'm going to maybe read, and whenever you try to make changes, in your life or to cut something out, adding something in its place that is, more nourishing or uplifting. So if you're not going to scroll, at night, maybe adding a book or adding, I'm going to, drink a cup of tea and listen to some music, whatever it is, just really trying to find the practices and tools that resonate more with you, and that can actually nourish you, and slowly starting to put more boundaries around the things that maybe throw you a little more off balance.
Yeah. I learned even about boundaries. Like you taught me a lot about that, right? When I was like, I feel overwhelmed with this, like, at one point you just got to shut it off for the day. So I want to come back though to just some of your training. So after you got, you've done so many hours of yoga training. I don't know, how many was it?
500.
5, right? So you have this teacher, but you're teaching so many classes, people of all ages, people of all different types of, I guess, physical abilities and health, right? Because some people you're working with, it could be certain classes, they're sick, right?
Yeah.
And they're coming to you for yoga, and it's maybe a different practice that you might get at a regular studio or et cetera. And you have a Reiki studio in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, right? You can talk about that briefly before we get to this festival again, because I think it all comes then full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my own Reiki studio in Dunmore. It's connected to the Wonderstone Gallery right there on the Dunmore corners. Yeah. And I work one-on-one with people and offer Reiki healing as well as sound therapy. And I also do private one-on-one yoga and meditation, classes for people that, want to have something that's more fit to kind of their needs. And I really, before I work with anyone, I set, a half an hour consultation, before we start to really dive into who they are, what is it that they're looking for, when it comes to the services that I have to offer. And I really try to cater, my offerings to the individual, because we all are so unique and our needs are unique and different. It's not a one size, fits all. And especially with yoga, yoga isn't all about, being able to put your foot behind your head or being like the strongest person in the room. Yoga is really about learning about your own body and making the shapes, in whatever way is most comfortable for you and breathing into that. So it's about developing that self-awareness, finding the limitations of your body and working within them. I always say, we're not fitting, the poses, we're not fitting our body to the poses, we're fitting the poses to our body, So I really just try to work with the individual one-on-one or sometimes in a group setting if it's an event or a class, and really just try to make sure that everything is working for everybody.
Yeah, copacetic.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, too, what is really cool, because I came back to the beginning of this conversation. I said, I still follow your social media channels, and I see what you're doing day in and day out. And I think what I'm really impressed and inspired by is how you're trying to take some of these practices, whether it's yoga and yoga or Reiki, into the community. But you've done so many cool workshops for kids. Mm-hmm. And I think, gosh, growing up where, the young Ryan and like nonstop, like I look back and I'm like, wouldn't that be cool to learn about that when you're a kid?
Yeah.
To start at that age. And what's the response? I mean, when you're teaching some of these workshops, whether it's yoga, Reiki, or et cetera, I think you do a lot of yoga workshops in the community. Tell me the reaction you get from the kids versus some of the adults. Do you feel like the adults are worried, oh my gosh, someone's watching me, and the kids just are like, I'm going to just try it? What do you find?
Yeah, kids are so natural to it. Kids, I mean, when you think about kids and just kind of how they operate, at that age, they're like monkey see, monkey do. So, they want to move their bodies, and they see things and they want to mimic it, So it comes really naturally, I find, teaching the kids the poses. I always just I switch it up and kind of make the names like, we're going to do star pose or, teapot, and kind of just shapes or names that they recognize. But the kids, like, I've worked with kids as little as preschool, like 2-year-olds. They're into it. They might not be able to do an hour-long class, but they're really into it. And I try to incorporate connection with the 5 senses with children, because that's how we experience, the physical world. So really just having kids connect with their senses, and I usually add some music and sound and play into it. And the kids, typically respond really well. It's fun for them. The adults, I always find, I teach beginners classes. I teach right now at the YMCA in the Scranton YMCA in Dunmore. A beginner's class on Wednesdays at 5:30. And I have found that people that aren't, familiar with yoga, there's a hesitancy, right? Because I think there is a misconception or stereotypes around what yoga is, or, what type of people it's for, But I always hear, after everyone's first class with me, they're like, wow, like I did this and I feel great. And, I really emphasize that this isn't a competition. Like, we're all in this room together, but this is your mat and your practice. And it's just an amazing thing to see people that didn't think that they could do yoga or that yoga wasn't for them, and to see how excited that they get about it, after they actually practice it and experience the real thing, and really feel how moving your body in alignment with your breath and allowing yourself to be present and kind of letting go of everything else that's, outside of this room, anything that happened before, anything that you're supposed to do afterwards. And it all comes back to being present, because so many times we're disjointed as people. Our thoughts are one place, our emotions, we're feeling something about something that happened yesterday, and our bodies are here, but our focus and our minds and our emotions are not, So that sense of presence, bringing your mind, your emotions, your breath, your body, all right here and now, and really just feeling what it is to fully be present. So much of that stress and that tension of being pulled in so many directions can dissipate. And when people really start to experience a sense of presence, your stress levels lower, your nervous system begins to regulate, your heart rate, begins to slow down and regulate, your respiration, your immune system, the nervous system is the control center of all the other automatic systems in your body. So once you can get that to become more balanced, which comes with mindfulness and presence, it's just your whole world can change, because the nervous system, of course, is directed as well by your 5 senses, and that's how you're perceiving the world. So if you have a stressed nervous system, you're going to perceive the world as a scary, stressful place, but once you're able to regulate that, it literally, like, once your thoughts change, like, your whole world will start to change. And when people really get on these paths of holistic wellness and understanding all the different aspects of the self that come into, finding that balanced well-being, it's a completely revolutionary, life-changing experience. It's not just that they feel better, it's that the whole world outside of themselves starts to become better.
Coming back to what you said about holistic health, a holistic approach, What's your response to people when folks are like, Reiki, that's like hooey? What do you say?
That I definitely think is the challenge. A challenge with some of these practices that have been practiced for hundreds, if not thousands of years in other parts of the world. They're new, to this part of the world. So I definitely don't take it personal. I understand that anything that is unknown is scary for people. So that's something that I really try to do with my social media and just my message and how I teach is I really try to make things practical. I try to break things down in a way that isn't so esoteric and is more relatable, so that, if people don't really understand it or if it's kind of way over their head, I try to bring it down, to a grounded kind of explanation or way of saying and doing things. But if people are, don't understand it or think it's hooey, but are open to it, I say all these things are experiential experiences, meaning that you have to really do it and experience it and feel it for yourself to know if it's for you or not. And everyone's experience is going to be different. So I just say, if you're open to it, try it. And if it's for you, that's awesome. If it's not, that's awesome. We all have medicine, that works for us, and it's going to be different, so it's just part of life is exploration. So I invite everybody to explore.
And in the beginning you said the big part of life, things are coming into your life and happening. How did you phrase it? For you rather than at you.
Yeah.
And when we talk about things happening in your life for you, all of a sudden this event that I start seeing all this buzz about, the Wild Women NEPA Festival. Yeah. What is it? How did you come up with it? What's the why behind it?
So I am the co-founder of this festival. Melissa Roberts, who owns Ski Shack in Music, is the other co-founder. And I had worked with her a little bit previously. I helped her out with some marketing things. Again, the universe randomly connected us last summer. And then I got a call from her, I think it was like April this year. And she's like, hey, I have an idea, and I want to run it by you. And I was like, okay. So we got together and she's like, I want to throw a women's festival. And I was like, say no more. Yes. And Melissa is a huge advocate of the outdoors. She's the only second generation, owned ski shop in, I think, all of the United States. And she doesn't just do, winter, outdoor activities, even she's a, year-long operation. So she's been doing, stand-up paddleboarding classes and all these different outdoor events for people in the summer. And she's really a huge advocate for women. She's a mother, she really has this passion of bringing women into the outdoors. And I have this passion for bringing wellness, the community and for women. So she was like, do you want to try to throw a women's festival? And I was like, absolutely. So this was literally, I think it was like April 20th or something. And she was like, all right, I'm on it. I'm going to find a location. We're going to do this. She's like, you do the marketing. I'm going to get all of the logistical stuff. And I was like, it's amazing because we work we're this perfect balance. Everything that I'm, not so good in, she's great in, it's awesome.
Yin and yang.
It is. So I think it was May 20th. A month later, I was able to put a website together. She found a location. We had this vision. We didn't have any vendors or facilitators or anything signed up yet, but we were like, this is what we plan to do. And we put it out there, and within a week, it started blowing up. It was,
Why do you think that is so fast? Because I did see the post on social. I'm like, wow, a lot of this is popping off.
It is. I think it's because of the need, specifically for women to have, a place where they can connect with other women, where they can explore their creativity, reconnect with nature, and really just celebrate themselves, And within just a few weeks, I had dozens and dozens of vendor applications, dozens of facilitator applications. We're already, I think we're at like 150 tickets sold already, and it's still over a month away. It's just really taken on a life of its own. And for me, when I see something do that, I see it as alignment. When you're aligned in your purpose or your passion or something that, connects or aligns with other people, it just kind of like creates a life of its own. And that's what's really happened with this festival.
And the date again is
Sunday, August 27th. It's from 10 to 6 p.m. at Lazy Brook Park in Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania.
August 27th.
Yes.
2023, in
Yes.
case you watch this later on. And I imagine it's going to rock and this will be an annual thing. But take me through it. When a woman shows up to this event in Tunkhannock, what will they see? What will they experience? What will they be able to take part in?
Absolutely. So this is a day-long gathering for women focused on wellness, nature, connection, and adventure. So it's a workshop-focused festival, meaning that there are dozens of different workshops and activities that women will be able to attend throughout the day. So we'll have like multiple workshop stations, and there's all these different facilitators and teachers that have curated these workshops for people to participate in that range from everything from yoga to ecstatic dance. There's an archery. There's going to be an archery section. There's poetry. There's going to be, things for mothers and connecting, with other mothers. There's somatic, dance. There's all different things. There's something for everyone. It's not just like yoga and meditation.
Is it adult women, young women?
It's so we're opening it up to, women and children. Most of the activities will be for women, but there is a playground and there's going to be things for kids as well. So women and girls, and we're saying boys under 10 can come too, because mama's got to come too, and they might not be able to find babysitters, so bring the little ones with you. It's a safe environment, and there's going to be dozens and dozens of vendors, many of them women-owned small local businesses, and there's live music as well that'll be there. So it's really just going to be just a spectacular fun time.
And people hear all this. How much are tickets?
$35.
$35, and you get all of that. But I think the biggest thing is, because you said you built your website. What's the website?
wildwomennepa.com.
And you can learn more about it.
Yes.
You can get tickets up to that day at the event.
And at the event, yep.
It's incredible. Anything else you want to add about that festival?
Just really, if you're looking to, connect with other women in a safe and supportive environment, in a judgment-free zone, and to really maybe try out a lot of these different activities and workshops and experiences like I've talked about today that maybe you haven't before, and really just see, like, is there different aspects of wellness that you didn't know about that may excite you and inspire you. And if you do come to the festival, I really encourage everyone to attend as many workshops as you can, because for the price point of $35, to have an opportunity to attend all these different classes is really amazing, because one of these classes alone, so outside of the festival, could be double the cost of the whole ticket. So we really want to make things accessible and affordable, and it's just going to be really, really fun. So come celebrate the wild women of NEPA.
I love that. And when I saw the title, that's why I wanted you to unpack it, because I didn't want people to think you have to come there and twirl around in a shawl like Stevie Nicks, right? You can totally do that if you want. Girl, I do that when I can. And before bed some night, put that robe on and spin.
With Wild Women, I think the name really was all about connecting to that raw, authentic version of yourself and reconnecting with nature and getting outside of the roles and the boxes that we put within ourselves, and really redefine what womanhood is, because it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So it's really an opportunity to embrace that wild, natural nature of womanhood.
I love it. And by the way, if people want to follow you across social media,
Yes.
because you always put out a lot of great content, you do a lot of workshops in the community, and some of them are free, which is super cool. How do they follow you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Kailin of Earth, Kailin of Earth, and my website is kailinofearth.com.
And I want to point out as well, for people who listen to this or who watch this, maybe they have a company. You've been doing a lot more workshops in corporations and stuff, because people are finally getting it. Like, maybe this could be really good for employees. And trust me, she didn't pay me to say this. I think you're one of the most organized, detail-oriented people I've ever met in general, but also like just, and then you bring all these other components to it as well. Like I'm always blown away that I'm like, man, she got it together. Like the way you execute events and the way you organize things, I'm like, #life goals. Like I tell the team, I'm like, we need to do what she's doing. She's real organized, but I love it. And I'm so glad you got to visit. And I'm so grateful as well for the time where I got to steal you away for like a month when we were building the company a year ago, and your organizational skills, your marketing talents really helped me get to the level where I am. So I'm always grateful for that. And then now your fiance, who you're engaged recently, you know, because you know, you have a new love in your life, which is, I think, great. Yeah. Ryan, who helps us out on some shoots as well, is just such the you two are like the greatest. I just love you too.
We love you too.
And you know what I love about you, coming back to the authenticity that shows up in your social media, is when I tune in and maybe there's just a reel there sometimes of you guys dancing, and I look at it and I'm like, I love it. But you know, my favorite videos that you do on social media, and it has nothing to do with self-care, I think. You're going to kill me for this. Do you know what it is?
I do.
Go ahead, tell everybody.
It's our gum chewing videos.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the ASMR thing.
We had one reel where we were just like in the car, both just like chewing our gum, and Ryan has not stopped talking about
Literally, it really sat with me. And I don't know what it is, but
it's those little moments of like being human and just capturing the simple things.
And I loved it. And I've watched ASMR videos of people eating potato chips, or the lady who eats pickles that they re-memed everywhere. But I saw that the one time of you guys just chewing gum in your car, and I was dying, but I just loved it. I was like, I could watch this video all day. It's so weird, I know. No, but I remember texting you, and I'm like, is this creepy? Like, I loved it.
Embrace your weirdness. Yeah. That's what I'm all about.
And I love you. And this is probably the first time you came into the office that I love your hair. Like, people probably always are like, can I touch it?
Well, thank you.
I love it. All right, one more time, recap the event.
Yes.
Wild Women NEPA Festival.
Yes.
The website is
wildwomennepa.com. It is on Sunday, August 27th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Lazy Brook Park in Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania.
Tickets are $35, but you have a ton of stuff planned.
So much stuff.
Like,
and if you
how you gonna pack it all in? You got a lot going on.
It is, you know, and if you follow social media, we're spotlighting all the vendors, all the workshops.
And the social media account to follow is?
Yes, Wild Women NEPA, at Wild Women NEPA on Instagram and Facebook.
I love that. Anything else you want to add that I missed?
Just thank you so much for having me.
I was like grateful. I was like, my girl's coming in today. Maybe after this, will you shoot a gum chewing video with me?
Maybe. Yes, we totally can do it.
I just love her. I love you.
I
All
love
right.
you.
You're such a light. So just keep throwing it out there. People here and across everywhere, they need that. So. All right, I love you. Kailin Bouse, everybody. Check her out. Thanks so much for being a part of the Ryan Leckey Show. And thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time.